I can interrupt him anytime I want.
I'm sure he will. Thanks, Brad, and thank you for giving us the opportunity to talk a little bit about student housing for the next 14 minutes and 32 seconds. So student housing has become, I think, quite popular across the globe as an investment opportunity. We caught the wave a little bit early. It was when we started the business in 2002, we decided we would make a significant bet on one asset class, and it was student housing. We like the business for the same reasons many people do. There's a built-in demand driver that helps assure that your project, if well conceived, will stay rented and with a good opportunity to increase rents during the holding period. Just to help you size the US market, it's about a $3 billion investment acquisition market, together with about a $3 billion per year development market. So it's not huge compared to some of the numbers you've seen earlier today, but I think it has proven itself over time to be more institutionally friendly. For the longest time, I think people had an aversion to student housing. We housed 18 to 21-year-olds. The property types were not that great. That people did the same thing in college today that they did when I went to college, which was have a party, have somebody show up, throw a beer keg through the wall, deny that it ever happened. Those things actually still happen today. The only difference is 12-month leases, parental guarantees, monthly inspections. And so when we catch the beer keg hanging in the wall and we get the same excuses people have been giving since the start of time, we say, fantastic, no problem. Well, here's the letter that we're sending to all your parents at 4 o'clock today. Have a nice day. And invariably, about 3:55, in walks somebody with a check to cover the repairs. So it makes itself a little bit more attractive to institutional investors. Attractive pricing compared to the multifamily world, probably a 50 basis point cap rate spread. So we like, the opportunity to generate an enhanced return. Current income, NOI growth, and inflation hedge. I think the what we like, and it ties to the recession resistant and countercyclical. So more people go to school during down cycles. So we actually, through the 2008-2009 correction, actually stayed fully rented. We actually increased rents, maybe not by as much as we do in better times, but we were able to continue to maintain the cash flows. Off campus is where we spend most of our time, meaning we try to get as close to the best front door of a campus as possible, and as close to the bars, and preferably both. That seems to be sort of the major locational element of the business. We do find ourselves, when we build something called purpose-built student housing, that is sort of the trend today in ground-up development. Every bedroom has a bathroom. And so the key to our business is finding great sites when we're developing, or finding great assets that basically have this sort of one-to-one bedroom bathroom parity. People say to us, well, you're spoiling kids by giving them these fantastic facilities to live in. And we say to them, not really. Kids in the US come to college spoiled. They didn't grow up sharing a bedroom or a bathroom. And so all we're doing is sort of meeting sort of customer expectations. And finally, what we like about it as a global investment opportunity is that it's still basically a ma and pa business in the United States. There are only 2 publicly traded vehicles, a handful of businesses our size. And so we think that there is an opportunity for industry-wide consolidation. So real quickly, some statistics. There are close to 3,000 four-year colleges in the United States. We typically try to find ourselves in public institutions. That would be state universities as opposed to private schools. That's where the growth in student enrollments typically finds itself in the United States. investors, especially people not from the United States, come to the United States and say, we'd like to be in student housing. We want to be at Harvard, Princeton, Stanford. Those are probably 3 schools that we would never be at because those schools don't add to the student body population in any kind of quantifiable numbers. There are 20 million students enrolled in the United States. The breakout is almost 15 million at public universities, 6 million at private universities. And the relevant comparison in the United States, where there's a long tradition of kids wanting to leave the house at 18 and parents desperately wanting their children to leave at 18, a big tradition of going away to college. That's not necessarily a global trend, but certainly part of the educational dynamic in the United States. We're there to address it. Most large state universities try to house at least their freshmen, their first year classes on campus to bridge that transition from living at home to being more independent. And so the opportunity really is focused on providing sophomore, junior, and seniors the opportunity to live in either purpose-built housing or well-maintained housing, and that's where the growth is for us. So why are we excited about the opportunity going into the future? Well, there were between 1997 and 2007, there were an extra 3 million children born. It's going to fuel the growth in student enrollments for the next 10 plus years. So we feel that the opportunity will extend itself well into the future. We heard about the millennial cohort. This is a part of that group. The other interesting dynamic is that when I graduated from college from high school, close to when Brad did, which was just about in the dark ages, only 49% of our age group cohort went to college. Well, the number today is close to 70%, and that number's growing. So more people desire a college education in the United States. And why is that? Let's see for that. I'm going to come back to that. And the reason is, hold on to your hat. Oh, where'd that slide go? Okay. I knew there was a problem with this. Okay, so the reason, just to keep the mystery going, it's actually in the book, is that the earning potential of people with a 4-year college degree dwarfs the earning potential of people without that degree. And so as long as that condition exists, we'll continue to see people being desirous of going to school despite all the news people hear about increased college tuitions, as well as the increase in student debt. I'm going to talk about student debt for just 1 second. The scary part of the student debt number in the United States is largely driven not by defaults at large state institutions, University of Georgia, the University of Texas, throughout the University of California system. It's really been driven by private for-profit educational institutions. That's where the debt problem really exists. And so whereas people are always asked that question of us, it's fairly easy to distinguish that situation from the places where we want to be. Talked about births, talked about going to college. The other exciting element of our business is the growth of the international student population. We have 3 million, we have 1 million foreign students that have come to the United States. They're very attractive as a potential group of students to universities because one, they pay full tuitions, and secondly, they pay cash up front. And so it becomes an extremely important part of the sort of budgeting process for state institutions. Many schools are now opening marketing offices in China and India to attract students. And when they come to the US, because they don't have a strong relationship to any of the towns that they're going to, they tend to want to live with people that have purpose-built housing, and we actually have our own marketing force available to to market our product in China right now. So where do students live? They live at home, they live off campus, they live on campus, and they live at off-campus non-purpose built. And so for us, the opportunity continues to be to develop on-campus purpose-built housing at schools that are growing. Typically, we're at schools that have at least 15,000 students to them. The reason we like that is A, they have some staying power, and secondly, the financing becomes easier. The government, the GSEs in the U.S., Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac, have fantastic financing programs for student housing, but they want to be at the largest schools because it helps them sort of minimize the risk that the schools are not going to perform, students won't be going there. There's been a little bit of talk about the increase in development in the U.S., but this chart, if you look at the blue line, will demonstrate that even in years of sort of diminished deliveries, 2016 actually was a little bit off, people were able to maintain their 95% sort of stabilized occupancy. And that's because the newer, nicer projects are actually continuing to stay leased, and they're having more people move out of the single-family homes out of their own homes. And so the market now is conditioned to having students live in more institutional type properties. And so the last point I'd like to make is that with respect to the opportunities to invest in student housing, what we really like about that is that there are a variety of ways to do it. If you are a core type investor, low leverage, large projects, lower return, there's the ability to do that through separate accounts and single asset separate accounts. To the extent that you are at the other end of the spectrum and you're interested in development, there are a number of great opportunities out there to participate in ground up development at flagship schools. Again, there would be debt on those projects and the returns would be greater because it is a development opportunity. And for the broad swath in the middle, value add, typically you could imagine a 15% type net return to value add investors, probably 60% leverage. These would be projects that have been undermanaged, underleased, probably have some kind of repurposing element to them. And there are a number of ways to sort of take advantage of those opportunities in the U.S. Thank you very much.